Hey everybody, Joe here, back for another video. Got some time to do it in the actual house today. So we're hearing, okay, how do I say this? All right, so we're seeing a lot of news, right? And I've been producing a lot of news on here since I restarted over with the new name on this channel and everything. But what a lot of people aren't doing, really. I mean, sure, they might post about it on, Facebook or X or, whatever social media platform they're on. They might post about wins here and there. And so the way that it works in this world, it seems like, is, you know, stuff happens and then people forget because the news cycle is just constantly moving. So I thought I'd take the time to do a show about everything that we've seen happen since Trump's taken office, all the wins. Because let's face it, it's not happening. There's not a lot of people doing that. Let's say there's not. I haven't seen a show that dedicated the entire show to just that. So this may not be the most flashy show today, right now, that you're ever going to see from me. There's not going to be a lot of video clips or anything, but I think it's important to cover what Trump has done, and some of it by himself, most of it, because he has very little backing in Congress because we have rhinos and a weak Congress. So, having said all that, let's dive right in. We're going to start on the economy first, okay? Now, there's going to be some things here and there that this we're hitting the bullet points, right? Because if I hit everything, this show would be extremely long. I know that many of you may not believe that, but it's true. So let's start here. Record GDP growth achieved. Okay, so we had record GDP achieved. Gross domestic product. I mean, Americans may think, well, that doesn't really affect me. Well, it does. If you work in a factory, if you work in anywhere that builds things or makes things, that's important. So 4.3% is huge. That's real GDP growth. And that was in quarter 3 of 2025. And it totally exceeded economists and experts expectations for what they expected to see. Just like in Trump's first term. Oh, everything he does is going to be bad. And then it was the opposite. So it set the stage for even higher growth in quarter 4, which we're pretty much, coming up on, or in, I should say. And it was done because, things like tax relief and investments into America, and also American first trade agreements that people seem to forget even happened at this point. So let's take a look at that. Straight from the White House. Let me get it brought up for you. There we go. 365 wins in 365 days. President Trump's return marks a new era of success and prosperity. This is straight from the White House. I don't know if I can get rid of that. Can I get rid of? Yes, I can. Thank you. So let's get right into the meat of it. Securing Americans' borders and putting Americans first. We don't need to worry about all that. I mean, where are we at? Where are you? Safe again. Economy right here. Let's go ahead and begin with economy on this list. Okay, we're already at 68 for economy. Drove gas prices to their lowest level in nearly 5 years, with prices below $3 per gallon in 43 states and below $2 per gallon in 19 states. Now, here in Michigan, we've crept up to a little bit above $3 for about, well, in this area of Michigan for about now going on 2 weeks, I think. I'm not really sure why that keeps happening in my particular neck of the woods. Now, if I drive 20 miles either way, we're down below $3. I don't know why. We are off of a main highway. Two main highways converge here in this area, so you would think they'd want to be competitive, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not the gas guy. I don't know why they do the things that they do. Created a 654,000 private sector jobs following deregulation, tax relief, and restored investment confidence. And that's actually American jobs, by the way. That's not just regular, oh, these are all illegals picking this. These are our slaves, as the Democrats openly admit. Ensured 100% of net job growth went to native-born Americans, which I just said, by enforcing immigration laws. 71, achieved massive economic growth with real GDP, which we just covered, rising 4.3 in the third quarter of 2025, smashing economist expectations, which we just talked about. Oversaw the largest increase in blue-collar wage growth in nearly 60 years, increased private sector real earnings by $1,100 annually, earning back some of the $2,900 in purchasing power workers lost under Biden. Those are all facts. You can fact check them on this. It's true. Tamed inflation, running at just 2.4 since President Trump took office, down 70% from Biden's era peak. Brought inflation under control by enforcing fiscal restraint, reversing runaway spending growth, and restoring policy credibility and driving core inflation to multi-year lows. And that's important. That's important, guys. And mind you, this is all happening while the tariffs were said to they were going to be a tax on us, and they haven't been. I say this a lot on my show. You can go to Walmart anywhere right now. Any store, I mean, maybe not a little guy's store or whatever, but you can go to a lot of these stores and you can go into the main Chinese area of that store, which would be the electronics section. That is your Chinese area largely. And you can still get a TV as big as your car for $300 to $500. Okay. Then there's the ones with all the extra bells and whistles and so on. Those ones get up to, over $1,000. And these things are massive, massive with special screens for extra color and sharpness and all this and that. But if you just want a big ass TV, you can still get one for a relatively fair price. I mean, depending on how important you think a TV is, I guess. So then we left off here. Achieved the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years by stabilizing mortgage-backed security markets and expanding liquidity, driving monthly housing payments to their most affordable levels in over 2 years. Also, for the open borders crowd, who are usually also the same ones complaining about high rent and not being able to afford a home, that comes down to your illegal immigrants as well. Okay, and immigrants, these people that abuse the refugee system and all that, they take up a lot of housing and, supply versus demand. If you understand what supply versus demand is, you understand why things get more expensive when we open the borders like crazy people. So then it goes on to say, oversaw existing home sales rising to the strongest pace in 3 years as income growth finally outpaces home price gains. Now, you have a lot of people that were upset that Trump didn't want to lower housing costs, like the value of a house. I've explained this in past shows. You don't do that. I don't want the value of this house to come down. This is an investment. I want it to go up, in fact, if possible, because it's an investment. To drive down the costs of everybody's houses is basically screwing the homeowner. And I know there's the socialist communist types who think that, people that own houses shouldn't own houses and all this bullshit. Those people can suck an ass. But the reality of the situation is you've gotten them so far in life that you were able to purchase a home. Okay. And you want the value to stay as it is. So delivered a historic stock market rebound with the major stock indices, sorry, all hitting repeated new record highs. Signed the working of, I think they meant to say indexes here. Yeah, maybe it's a word that they use in the bank. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be indexes. But whatever. That's probably a word. It's probably, you know what? I'm going to do this. Let's see if it's a word, because now it's a word I've never really heard before. So let's see. It's supposed to be indexes. Cafefe. Anyway, so signed the working families tax cut, delivering the largest middle class tax relief package in modern U.S. history and saving 5.9 million jobs. delivered on his no tax on tip campaign promise. Now, that's the fun part, right? There's a lot of blue states that have opted out of that. They're not going to do that. Nope, they're not going to do it. Screw you. Delivered on his no tax on overtime campaign promise. Same thing. Blue states not going to do it. Delivered on his no tax on Social Security campaign promise for our great seniors. Delivered unprecedented tax relief for small businesses and other key industries, building on the successful Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from his first term and opening the door for new levels of prosperity to come. Secured congressional passage of a $9 billion recession package, permanently canceling wasteful spending like the wasteful taxpayer funding of NPR and PBS. Now, this one right here was worth it just to see libs melt down about something they weren't watching beforehand and never started watching again. We could call this the Jimmy Kimmel effect. That's what I'm going to start calling it. So Trump cancels some liberal mouthpiece they didn't watch to begin with. He didn't cancel Kimmel, obviously. Kimmel kind of canceled himself for a week or two. They melt down. They watch it for a week. It's kind of like conservatives with their boycotts. Did a whole show on that, like for the Super Bowl. And then it's like, yeah, this is actually not interesting or enjoyable. And then they stop watching. So you recall, Kimmel comes back on the air, and for like a day and a half, he had the highest ratings in many years. And then it went and tanked back out because he's not funny. He's not enjoyable to watch. It's literally, you're watching propaganda. And he's kind of a bitter little fucking sad person, really, is what that is. So they stop watching it. And this is how they are. You know, their support is our boycott. Our boycott is support at the end of the day. I might do a whole nother video on what really happened with the Super Bowl because that whole thing where they all switched to go watch the TPUSA thing, yeah, it didn't really help, if anything. In fact, everybody that was as conservative that's all mad at all the woke NFL nonsense, they literally just helped them quite a bit, actually. Anyway, terminated wasteful foreign aid programs inconsistent with America First priorities through a $5 billion pocket recession. So then they reduced wholesale egg prices by 89% following the Trump administration's intervention, supply stabilization, and regulatory relief. 87. Delivered a 4% nominal private sector weekly wage increase, resoundingly beating inflation. Excuse me. 88. Directed credit card companies to cap interest rates at 10% to provide Americans needed relief. Now, that one I'm going to put a notation, okay, here on 88 right here, because he directed through EO. That doesn't mean that these credit card companies are doing that. Matter of fact, let's look into it. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring up Grok because I haven't really heard any news if they've done that. Let's see. I don't think they've done it. I'm going to be honest with you. Let's see. Yeah. No evidence. There goes my dog for some reason. Let's see what they say here. I don't. Well, and see, and that's the thing. It says no widespread lowering confirmed despite Trump's calls. I mean, I didn't expect widespread. These people aren't going to do it unless Congress passes a bill. So no major credit card companies have not major credit card companies have not lowered their interest rates in response to President Trump's direction or proposal for a 10% cap. Trump initially called for a voluntary one-year cap starting January 20th, 2026 via Truth Social post, but later shifted to urging Congress to pass legislation to enforce it as he lacks the unilateral authority to impose such a cap without new laws. As of early January 2026, no widespread reductions. Bank of America has considered launching, let's get that brought up further, a new credit card product with a 10% interest rate cap for 1 year. But this is not a broad reduction across existing cards. And so, yeah, basically great that he did that. But yeah, Congress needs to act. And Congress, well, you all know what's going to happen with Congress. They're not going to do what they're supposed to do. That would be asking too much. So there you have that one. Cut the U.S. trade deficit to its lowest level since 2009 through tariff enforcements and reciprocal trade pressure. And we're going to see how that goes at the SCOTUS level. I hope that they do the right thing and allow it to stay, because it's actually helping this country and letting it thrive. Now, the only people that don't care about this, of course, is the socialists and the people that live on welfare, or the ones that get paid to protest, those types. They don't care if your country is doing well. They don't care if your economy is doing well, because it doesn't really affect them, right? That's not their money that they're shopping with at the grocery store. If something costs $10 that was once $3, they're like, whatever, not my money. So that's really how that goes. Launched the largest deregulation initiative in U.S. history, delivering $5 trillion in savings, which is amazing because it's just stupid. He just canceled the stupid Obama era rule that wound up taking effect somewhere much later type rule. I think it was either Obama or Biden that passed it. I don't remember. But Obama threw a fit about it on X, about EPA regulations and so on. So they took those out, and they're stopping the stupid stop-start cars, which are absolutely retarded. And everything is going to get back to normal. Now, I will say this. One of the more, it may not even be on here, if I'm being honest. If you recall, at some point, I think it was Biden or the Democrats, somebody with a small, tiny peanut-sized brain decided that gas cans needed to be safer. So they made it so that it's like trying to solve a puzzle. Some of these stupid gas can tips now, trying to solve a puzzle to get your gas out of the can. Trump got rid of that rule, and I will say this, I haven't seen gas can tips change so far. I mean, maybe they're rolling them out and we're still getting rid of product from this last mess that we did. I just, I wish Congress would stay the hell out of trying to improve things. That's what I'll say. I wish they would stay the hell out of trying to improve things like that, because it's never going to work out good. I mean, in my diesel tractor, we didn't have anything diesel, right? So when we got that tractor, this would have been 2022, maybe 2021. I don't know. But when we got that tractor, we had to get the one where it's got the little red safety thing that you got to push in, and then this slides down and then it comes out. Well, it's got a little clip that hooks to the edge of the gas tank to help push it in once you push that. Well, that wore out and the little red clip fell into the tank. Thanks, guys. So the engineers come up with the most amazing ideas to ruin everything, literally. Granted, it's an old-ass tractor, and it's probably not going to hurt anything. But obviously it hasn't yet. This was last summer. But that's what I'm talking about. Congress gets involved, everything goes to shit. Just stop. If you're not being instructed by this president to do something smart, then just don't bother. Honestly, just don't. So just please leave our gas cans alone, you all. Okay, so where'd we leave off? Deregulation, 91. We're at 91 right here. Created Trump accounts to empower the next generations of America through tax advantage savings accounts for newborns, projected to provide them with as much as $300,000 come their 18th birthday. And it runs off of, it's like almost like an IRA or a 401k. The thing is you don't have to have an infant to take part in this. You can actually get this for your grandchild. You can get this for your own child who is, whatever age, as long as they're not an adult. I don't think you can do it if they're 18. But say your daughter's 16 or your son is 16 or 14, 13, 12, whatever. You could start one now with some chunk of your tax returns, let's say, And you could put that in there, and they would have however many years until they turn 18 to take the money out. And I don't think that they're like, I don't think they have to take it out on their 18th birthday either. I think they can take it out whenever they want, 25, 30, whatever. I think. You would have to research that, but look up the Trump accounts and go to their official website, because that's actually a major win, because a lot of people don't, I guess, have the know-how to do stuff like that for their kids. And there's not a lot of, I mean, it's available to do that for your kids, but you don't see a lot of advertisements or anything like that for the companies that do it. And people don't really think about that kind of stuff until their kids are heading to college or about to go to college. You know, they hit high school. We'll start a savings account for college, or maybe a little before that, middle school. I don't know. And so this here would allow, I mean, think of that. Turning 18 after having this from birth, and you've got $300,000. Imagine what this is going to do for these people. If your kid thrives in school and is super smart and likes to tinker with it, they could become an entrepreneur. They could invent things. I mean, dude, $300,000, if I'd have had that when I turned 18, that'd have been crazy. All right, so garnered overwhelming private sector to support sector support for Trump accounts, with Michael and Susan Dell donating $6.25 billion, and major corporations such as SoFi, Charles Schwab, and Charter Communications matching the federal government's 1,000 contribution for employees. And then it says here 93 secured roughly 12 trillion in domestic investments, onshoring jobs and revitalizing America's manufacturing. I want to make sure I'm not getting ahead of you over here. Okay. Delivered $12 billion in much needed direct aid to American farmers through USDA emergency support initiatives, helping farmers and ranchers recover after losses induced during the Biden administration. And they did lose under Biden. Negotiate. If we'd have had another 4 years of Kamala, let's say, this is why I laugh when people hint that Democrats are going to run her again. I just look and I'm like, this is the border czar. Most people voted for a secure border. That was the reason they showed up, and to stop this massive flow of illegals into the country, and so-called refugees and so on, people who will wave the flag of their country but won't stay in it to fix it. So that's why that's one of the major things that he ran on and won on. Guarantee that would be the number one issue. And he's doing a bang-up job. Zero border crisis. It's probably somewhere on this list, and we may get to it. But I'm focusing right now on the financial aspect, because let's face it, under Biden, people's finances went to hell. Under Democrat rule, in blue states during COVID, people suffered. 14 days to slow the spread was Trump's thing. He got demonized for shutdowns that he didn't carry on past 14 days. He was pleading with people to open the country, and these people were refusing to do it. And then they tried to accuse him of mishandling COVID. Dude had people, you can look this up. He did what every other country does when there's an outbreak. He had people at the airports by the beginning of January, when we started hearing it might be leaving China. By the end of December, by the beginning of January of the next year, he had people in airports checking for fevers, checking for things like that, symptoms and so on. He created air bridges. We can't open until we have enough of these ventilators that we're just murdering people with. So he didn't know this, He was surrounded by evil people like Fauci. He's not a doctor. So what did he do? He created a supply bridge, and we ended up with ventilators, and they killed a bunch of people, and there we were. Then it was, we need to have this vaccine to open up the country. Now that you've gotten us all these ventilators that ended up rotting in the desert somewhere, not kidding, there was video and photos. And what did they do with it? He said, well, okay, we need this vaccine to open up this country and get these American people back to work and doing what they need to do. We'll fast track it, and we'll get it done. They will get it done. They already said they have one ready in the first place. So let's just get it going. Now he can be attacked on that, but I'm sorry. That's a personal choice. And then they tried to force it on people. But if you didn't want to take the extra hour out of your day to come up with a reason religiously why you didn't want that vaccine, my wife did. And she doesn't even have to get the flu shot. Okay. if you didn't want to take that time and you're like, well, I need to keep my, that's a you thing, right? You didn't want to do that. You didn't want to take the effort to do what needed to be done. I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm just spitting the truth. If you wanted to, go to concerts and see a bunch of weirdos singing and so on, if that was your priority and you were like, yeah, I got to get this, I got to go see this concert, and you chose to do that, that's a you thing. That's a you thing. You did that. Okay. I, but we can't blame Trump for trying to get this economy open so that you would keep your job. And can you imagine what would have happened if we didn't get the economy open? You want to know what would happen? Look at what happened with Biden. They kept it shut down even after the COVID shots were released. And look what happened. People, and then they flooded the country with illegals on top of it. Housing went up. People were losing jobs. It was insane. Landlords were getting hosed up the butt because they weren't, they were freezing rent and stuff in these blue states because it was just insanity. I think people forget a lot of this, but that's neither here nor there. Trump handled it right. Anyway, back to this. Negotiated massive soybean purchase agreements with China and Bangladesh, reopening critical export markets, approved $50 billion in rural health care funding. The largest investment in rural hospitals in history, reduced rent growth to its slowest pace since 2021, reduced weekly jobless claims to their lowest in years, taking action to lower housing costs by authorizing Treasury-backed mortgage bond purchases and calling for a ban on large-scale institutional investors buying up supply. So that's another thing that's really important. He called for a ban on it, but it's not necessarily done yet. Right? It's not, we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. That's been an issue for a very long time. You've got a lot of these big investors. They'll come in, they'll swoop in, they'll buy up apartment buildings, like single and duplex family homes and so on. Or they'll buy up like a two-story family home separated into two apartments, things like that. And then the thing that happens 9 times out of 10 is this big company doesn't maintain the property. So if you're renting there and say your toilet's backed up and overflowing, there's been stories of people who have been trying to get a hold of the company for sometimes months, and they're just living with it. That's not how we should be in America. I am pro landlord. I'm not one of these people that blame landlords for everything. And so on. There are bad landlords, but the majority of landlords out there, I think, are good. We've got a guy near us at the end of our road, older feller. He just from what I've seen, he rents out this trailer, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I couldn't do it. Everybody that he's ever had move in there have trashed it. There used to be like a single stall kind of older style garage there. One of the tenants had moved in, and not only did he pile garbage bag, it's $35 a month to get garbage pickup here. He, I guess, was against garbage pickup. I don't know what it was. I know he would burn his garbage once in a while, but he produced more garbage than he could burn. Okay. So it was the south end of this trailer was just piled high up above almost above the window, just this giant pile of garbage that came off the trailer, right? That this old feller had to get rid of once this guy decided not to pay rent or got booted out or whatever. Not only that, the garage he was throwing garbage into as well. And at some point, something happened in there and it caught fire, and now there's no garage on this property. Okay. There were people that would move in, and almost like clockwork, everybody that would move in, the grass would go all summer, not ever getting cut, nothing like that. And I mean, this trailer pretty much shares a yard with the neighbor. Like, there's no fencing, there's nothing. It's just, he knows where the property line, he mows up to it, right? And then there's people across the street on all sides and they just all get to watch as these people do this stuff. And it's a nightmare. Okay. And this is what a lot of landlords have to deal with. You've got a lot of people out there in this country who don't care about their livability, how they live, right? They will come home from whatever they do, whether they work or whatever. There may be piles of like just dishes all over, everything's dirty. shit all over the floor. You've got hoarder situations that these landlords deal with, and then people want to demonize landlords. Now, again, like I said, there are bad landlords, right? But at the end of the day, the hate towards landlords, I think, is so retarded because you're blaming them for situations being created by our own government, influx of illegals and refugees taking up properties. They had, how are you going to blame landlords for costs going up? If utilities from the city goes up, that raises their costs. If they don't charge you utilities, they got to make that cost back if they're covering it, right? So that brings the rent up a little. So yeah, and I mean, so he did that. I mean, it's a good thing, I mean, the cost of housing is coming down. And it will keep coming down the more deportations we do as well. They haven't mentioned that. And I think they missed their mark on that one. Marked the strongest year for new vehicle sales since 2019, with Ford achieving its best annual sales in 6 years. And to thank Trump, they went woke and donated to the No Kings protests and all that. General Motors reporting soaring overall sales, and Stellantis seeing Jeep brand sales rise for the first time since 2018. And then we've got this 101 right up here at top. Oversaw price declines for both new and used vehicles, reversed onerous Biden era fuel economy standards that would have added nearly 1,000 to the cost of an average new vehicle, delivering billions in savings for consumers. And yeah, I don't need my car to stop at turn off at a red light. I don't. I get that your stuff keeps running, your music doesn't turn off, all that kind of stuff, but it's just stupid. It's just dumb. Open the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument to commercial fishing, undoing the nonsensical Biden-era ban on boosting the economy of American Samoa and other Pacific islands. Took executive action to restore American seafood competitiveness by reducing regulatory burdens, combating unfair foreign trade practices, and enhancing domestic seafood production and exports. So none of these things are bad. Again, some of them were suggestions that they've put out and so on that, didn't necessarily get done, like the credit card thing and so on. But at the end of the day, he's called on Congress to act. It's now in Congress's hands. And as you can see, Congress is more interested in spreading salacious stories about Epstein than they are in fixing the country, because it gets clicks and it makes them seem popular to people, I guess, who apparently care about this obviously now dead story. Whether you like to hear that or not, it is. And then we've got... for tariffs, we should probably talk about tariffs. I think I got a Grok thing open. Yes, I do. Okay, there we go. Let's just do the Grok thing. There we go. So here we go. I'll make this a little bigger for us. There we go. All right, so tariffs, trade revenue generation, imposed tariffs generating 265 to 287 billion in 2025, a 192% increase, funding infrastructure and reducing foreign reliance with customs duties at a 300 billion annual rate. Trade deals and adjustments, signed deals with UK, China, Indonesia, India, Japan, and others, reduced tariffs on China from 20% to 10% in response to fentanyl commitments. Imposed adjusted tariffs on Canada up to 35%, Mexico, Brazil 40%, and others to combat drugs and unfair trade. Now, it came out too that fentanyl deaths have dropped since all of this happened, the drug boat bombing and all that. Fentanyl deaths are decreasing for the first time in a very long time. Nobody's talking about that either, and it's thanks to Trump, whether you like it or not. Trade deals and adjustments, signed deals with UK, China, Indonesia, Japan, and others. We did that. God dang it, why does this not want to just... Oh, I should probably... There we go. Okay. Sector specific tariffs imposed 25% on semiconductors, equipment, 100% on imported branded drugs, with exemptions for U.S. plant builds, and adjustments on Russian oil related imports from India removed after compliance. There you go. But he's Putin's puppet or whatever. Retaliatory and reciprocal measures pause tariffs on Canada, Mexico after deals. Use tariffs to secure commitments like China's $550 billion investment and India's defense cooperation. So he's using these tariffs strategically as they were meant to be used by the president for. We were in a situation where we had countries like Canada and India charging us over 100% tariffs in many cases, well over. And then when Trump's like, okay, so we're going to start charging you more tariffs as well. What? We're the victim now. We're the victim. We're the victim now. And it's like, no, you've been raping us for years. And we're going to start fighting back because it not only hurts our jobs, our sustainability, our self sufficiency. I mean, remember, again, COVID, remember when people needed PPE, and all that crap. We didn't have any. We didn't have any. That's what the supply bridge, the air bridge was for, to get all these things in as well, along with the killer ventilators. But we didn't have it. That's because we became so self-reliant on other countries for everything. Imports, imports, imports. Meanwhile, you were watching whole sectors in Ohio, whole cities in the country just gone because a factory closed down or because a coal mine was no longer allowed to operate. You know what I'm talking about. Just the list goes on and on. Even Democrats acknowledged this. Okay. So, until Trump took office, but that's what we watched from the 90s, probably late 80s through the 90s and through the early 2000s. Okay. And just destroyed areas of the United States. We saw places that were booming and they started building housing developments and they were just abandoned because there was nobody wanted to live there anymore. It was crime ridden. There was no jobs. It's just insane what happened to this country. And we just kind of allowed it. And to think that people would still vote for the people that allowed it. I mean, some of these people that allowed it are still in office. I'm just saying, they're still in Congress and at the local level even. So I'm just saying. So legal battles, Pam Bondi, everybody wants to attack her all the time because it's the trendy thing to do. It gets clicks and people like to be outraged about everything. There's nothing can be right. The black pill people. So Trump's own executive actions and wins: signed 240 executive orders, 57 memorandas, and 126 proclamations by February 2026, including revoking Biden-era policies prevailed in court on challenges to tariffs, deportations, and regulatory rollbacks. He did the J6 pardons, whether you like that or not. Declassifications and transparency, released over 3.5 million pages of Epstein files, fully declassified JFK, RFK, MLK assassination files, and targeted law firms challenging policies. Criminal justice and enforcement designated cartels, MS-13, as terrorists, conducted strikes on drug traffickers, which we just discussed, captured Nicolas Maduro, and reduced homicide rates to record lows. And they are. They've dropped below, oh man, I can't remember, in almost like 100 years or something. It's crazy. So we already know he added 687,000 private sector jobs of Americans. The military's having recruitment success in all branches. They either met or exceeded those goals that they had. And then CBP hiring is up 42 to 84%. Reduced foreign students by 17%. But everybody says he's increasing HB1 visas. He's not. Actually, the record person for H1B, I said H1B visas was Biden midterm. We had like 400,000 or something come in. Trump's dropped that down to 100,000. He was still, that would have been his first quarter that he was part of. It was still part of Biden's quarter though. So it kind of carried over into 2025, but it dropped down once Trump took over to like 100,000 something. And then he raised the price for the H-1B visa, and did all those things and made it. I mean, if you remember, there was a meltdown in India. The Indians were melting down about this, and oh, good luck with everything that you guys want to build. We're the ones that did it. I mean, I can remember this. I'm sure you can. And meanwhile, you've got the Nick Fuentes, who's a gay dude who had gay sex with Destiny, the far left streamer and stuff. But that's neither here nor there. He's trying to say that Trump hasn't done anything. He's making it more, and people believe it. Then we've got Trump RX, most favored nation pricing, implementing MFN pricing, aligning U.S. drug costs with international lows. Matter of fact, let's take a look at that. They just launched this like a week ago, I think. And even that creepy Mark Cuban guy had to give him credit on that. So let's see. Why is it not loading? Is it down? What? Somebody, that wouldn't surprise me. Let's see. I'll just type Trump RX. There it is. .gov. I put .com. That's my fault. Okay. Close that out. All right. And just take a look at this. Let me center it on there better for you all. I have to shrink it down and resize it depending on what I'm doing. Let's see. Browse medications. We'll do that really quick. So whatever this is, $22. It usually is $316. Wegovy pill instead of the shot. I think this is the thing that's like the weight loss drug. It was 1,349.02 is now 149. This is, I do believe, a rescue inhaler, Bevespi. $51. It used to cost $458. Wegovy pen, $199. Down from 1,349.02. These are just the main page examples. Duave, $30.30. I don't know what any of this is. $202 is what it used to cost. Tovai is starting at $43.50 down to now. Liberals will probably not use this site because it's Trump, so they can keep continuing to pay high prices, or maybe they've got a better deal through their companies that they work for as a soon to be fired DEI manager or whatever. But anyway, so that's the drug thing. So, I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. Again, this is whitehouse.gov. Just type in 365 wins in 365 days. You'll find it. You can read through this entire list. I mean, it's long, guys, and accurate, right? I mean, this is the border crossings cut down to zero. Nobody thought that could happen. If you recall, we went from Biden selling pieces of the wall at like wholesale prices or less to us rebuilding the wall and keeping people out while also deporting. Okay. It's nothing but wins over and over. And you got the people, I did a whole video, and I think it was my last video, about that are saying, oh, Trump just caved to Tim Walz. No, he didn't. The left is literally melting down right now because of the fact that not only are the deportations increasing, but they're expanding operations in the United States, expanding facilities and everything else. It just make sense how the grifters on the right are like, oh, Trump caved to Walz, but literally Tom Homan comes out and says, hey, we're still going to deport regular illegals, not just the bad guys. Trump was elected on, mass deportations, and that's what he plans to do. And so, I mean, we can allow people to blackpill us, or we can look at reality. And the reality is things are getting better, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. No matter what side of the aisle you are on, this all affects you in some way, or the people you know and love. And it should be a good thing that we're getting rid of these illegals. It should be a good thing that the economy is thriving, that you live in. It should be a good thing that people can afford drugs now on this site. And as this site grows, the more drugs they can afford. So, I mean, right here, I was looking for this as I was talking. I just wanted to show you an example of the blackpilling that's being done. to try to keep you from understanding and realizing that we're actually doing very well. Let me see. Why is it not coming up again? Come on. There we go. Done. All right, so let me turn off this and I'll show you. This is from Captive Dreamer. I log onto the Dissident Right X, and it's just permanent blackpilling over Trump surrendering to Minneapolis. And when I check in on Leftoid Blue Sky, they're blackpilling over ICE surveilling and arresting people. Some of you need to figure it out. And this is Will Stansel. ICE is still operating for now. There is an abduction in the neighborhood earlier today, and cars driving around and surveilling spots, which is often a precursor to abduction. Now, let me stop here really quick. I'm pretty sure this dude just got beat up by Antifa because I don't remember this. I think he got arrested or something, and they thought he might be a snitch or something, and they didn't want him around. So they literally beat this dude up, and he's back to it. Oh, I think this is the guy. And observers are still all over them, although it's harder as they've gotten more on undercover. So keep that in mind, okay? As you're being told by people on the right that Trump caved, the local police are actually doing their jobs and arresting agitators, which means we need less ICE agents because they're not having to basically fight off agitators as they're trying to make an arrest. And from what Tom Holman said, they're basically going to be able to go back to normal ICE levels in Minnesota, which means that expands even more people to go do deportations for normal and criminal, like severe criminal. They're all criminals, but you know what I'm saying, like felonious criminals and other parts of the country, instead of just Minnesota, where they're having to deal with a bunch of age-riddled frickin' autists who have blue hair and STDs and stuff. They can actually go deal with the bad guys and the illegals that cross and do it in other states as well, instead of having to hyper-focus on one. Because the minute that they came to Minnesota, that it all started. It was not like even within a week they had set up shop and they were doing all this stuff. But that's neither here nor there, guys. I mean, when you've got so many wins like this, guys, you're gonna have haters, and they're gonna come on both sides. And then the haters are gonna be the names that you recognize, social media influencers, big names at news stations, and so on. And then what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with the small base of people, or maybe even a large, depending on who it is, who can't think for themselves, can't research for themselves. We saw this during the whole Q thing, if you remember. Q would drop something and most people didn't even know. And then there were these people that kind of lived through vicariously through people who were decoding the Q thing for them. Before it got hijacked in 2018 by, I think, the same people that were decoding it. That happened in late 2018. But anyway, these people, you know, I lost count on how many times a certain Q post was supposed to mean something right then, and then they'd recycle that same Q post for something new that happened that probably it was so stupid. But people don't do their own research; they don't think for themselves anymore, and we saw that during that time. Those of us on the right, you know, and some of us were actually reading them, and some of us were listening to what other people were telling us they said, right? Anyway, guys, that's what I got for you. We are winning. You should be happy about that win that we're having because it's affecting you, your family, your grandkids. As long as we show up in 2026 this year in the fall to go do them midterms, vote red. What is it we could hijack? They got vote blue no matter who. One of my friends from over there on the Post Republic, I was like, what do we have? What do we have that equals that? Vote red no matter who. That doesn't sound right, you know? And they said, let's hijack theirs. Let's say better red than dead. The commie. That would be kind of funny if we did hijack that, honestly. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. We got to show up, guys. Trump's showing up for us. We got to show up for him. We got to get, I mean, a rhino is better than, whether you like it or not. I don't like rhinos, but let's be real. A rhino with no Democrats in office is a lot better than a Democrat with all Democrats in office. This whole thing will go south if we don't get there and show up. Now, as far as the fear mongering on the voter bill, that probably isn't going to pass, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. We'll see what happens. It's all kind of hinging on John Thune changing the rules of Congress. I don't want to get into all that, but it's all going to hinge on that. They got 50 votes. They need 60. If they change some rules, they might be able to pass it. But that guy's as weak as can be, and I don't know, man. I don't see him doing it. I don't see him doing it. We'll see what happens, but I'm not feeling too hopeful. But if it does pass, just understand, if you're a legal registered voter of this country, you'll still be able to vote with your ID, okay, like you always have. It's mostly for newer signups, new registrations, and so on. And the Democrats frame it as though you need a passport to do it. You don't. You just need your birth certificate. If you can't find your birth certificate, it's like $15. It takes a couple weeks to get it. You've got all summer, all the rest of whatever we're in right now, winter, spring, and the beginning of fall, to get that done. If you can't get something that simple done in that allotment of time, then that's a you problem, and I guess we deserve to lose, right? As far as like people that are going to get married and stuff, this is easy. You just take your birth certificate. You say, I got married. You can take your marriage license. You can do whatever you need to do to get established. If you're just if you're just signing up to vote, they're making it seem as though it's going to make it so impossible for people. It doesn't. They're making it seem like people are too lazy to do these things also. And that may be, that could be a very accurate thing. But to say that black people can't figure out how to do it, and the fact that they still have black voters at this point, blows my mind. They're literally telling you that you're too stupid to figure out how to get an ID to go vote. You've got an ID. You go to the club. You go get alcohol. You show your ID to get in certain places. You show an ID to buy cigarettes. You have to have an ID to sign your kid up for school. So do black people's kids not go to school? And as far as women being too stupid, or I guess lazy, to fix any paperwork issues they might have, what are you talking about? So now women are lazy, blacks are stupid. This is the Democrat Party, folks. This is their platform. Anyway, guys, I will let you go. I was rambling. But yeah, show up to vote this fall. Show up to vote in 2028. Better red than dead, guys. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.